talking about the finish yet. I'm just talking about the parry for the thrust. And then the lower ones are the same thing. You're just catching it in here on the foot. Okay. The Savior blood, right? Parry is just a strike parry.
Do you want a square? I appreciate that. I'm the best at square. He's got so. I'm the only one that shows up anymore.
There's a fairly good chance that I put these on backwards. Take care.
Okay. When we do a strike parry, we want to make sure that we don't. So if he thrusts at me, I can't do that as a parry, as a strike parry. I can't do anything with my sword now. All he does then is whatever, right? So I control center by striking and keeping my sword over his. I mean, if I hit so hard, you can expect it to go over there. That's better, right? But I'm keeping it over, so now I have an advantage position, right? Okay.
Get it right.
But I think we'll be okay.
A rebat, okay, or a flick parry, or a lift flick parry, okay, is you can use it on thrust and you can use it on cuts. But
yes,
basically, the premise is, let's say, for example, I'm in Fool, right? Fool guard, you guys know Fool? Was it Albert, I think? Yeah. Right, Albert, right? Okay. And he goes, oh, that's an imitation of thrust I right in the nose, right? So my parry there is going to be that, right? Okay, so that's the rebat. That's lifting my weapon, grabbing his as it comes at me, flicking it just enough so that it comes off my center line, controlling here, and then I take the finish. Okay? Rebats are great. I mean, yeah, so he cuts in my head, right?
Yep.
Same thing.
Double knot.
No.
Double knot if you can.
Right. So you're here.
Double knot before the bow?
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
I just took it off. I should do it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I'm lifting it and accelerating it with
You just tell yourself.
I don't. I do this one.
you have to, you don't be fast. You have to be perfect timing. Yeah. If you hit bad timing, you just miss and he hits you. Right? Like literally, if I have bad timing, so I come in and I do this. So this is an advanced parry. Okay?
That's why they're long.
But the other way, probably the worst way to have bad timing, you're still swinging here, is I just catch it enough to help him hit me really hard. Okay? I've done that. I've done that one. He's like, well, good for me. That was hard. So parry or cut on the rebat thrust. Okay? You can do rebats on the other side. You gotta get really used to rebats. Right? So if I'm here, I can put it that way as well. Right? Okay? You almost think of a rebat as a strike from low high.
I probably should do that.
Just you know,
As often as this happens.
That's how you use it. Fool's
How long have
guard.
we been fighting?
And right, so what are you doing, Fool, right? Fool, I'm hearing, oh, I'm gonna low thrust. What else is there? Oh, the rebats. Oh, okay. Right? But I also have a thing that I didn't describe earlier, I'll describe now. So getting to some more of those guards, remember earlier I said I had like 12 or 14 guards. So I go, so just watch. So plow, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. But also plow. So I can plow and come hot. There's also full plow. Okay? Full plow. Regular plow. High plow. Okay? So if I don't want to use full, but I come in the low guard, low plow, same thing with that rebat. Okay? The difference is that I'm a little closer to my my center blocking guard position was low, I can still thrust. Right? It's actually a little bit more dangerous because when I go to low plow, my opponent's like, well, if I come in too much, I'm just going to run into that thrust. As we're down here, it has to lift. From low plow, it doesn't. Why do you do high plow? Well, you do high plow generally because you're fighting somebody who's either taller than you are and you want to try to hit him in the head, right? Or you're fighting somebody who's sword shield and you got to get over a shield, right? So yeah, so instead of being like bomb top here, which is a little higher, or full on bomb top here, we'll talk a little later about that, right? I'm just here. Okay, it's kind of like single sword shield. At least when I fight. Yeah, I'll be here standing. If I want to get that little down, so I have like protection on that side, I'm looking for that. I'm coming into that lower point forward yard, regular point forward yard, high point forward yard, right? And you kind of just rotate up and down like that. You don't have to push out. You just like, right? But if I'm here and I want to hit that in the head, he makes me block. High guard. Yeah.
Now you need to be moved.
Right, now you got really block. Because I started higher for the high cut. Right? Simple math. So those are the parries for thrust. The strike parry. So like a strike parry for cutting the leg, we were talking about that a little earlier, but here. Right. Okay. Huh? You were too far away. Yeah. Yeah. Right, so that's perfect timing. If not, I would have driven it into my calf. Yeah. Right. Okay. But that's so I could meet it with a strike, but again, as we talk, when I meet it, all he's got to do is lift it. Yeah. This is manipulating that weapon so he can't use it for a thing that is it's a parry because it's not only a block, but it's a parry, and I'm controlling it in a way that keeps him from doing a thing for a moment. Okay? So if he's swinging straight downwards on my head, and I step over here, and I do a strike that way, does he get expected? I get out of the way, so that's a void. But if I don't do something with this sword, he's just going to redirect, right? So I step and hit. That passing step gives me that body turn to create that power, right? And now I'm over, and I win. Okay? All right. So that's how we use strike parries. That kind of idea. Remembering always that when you do any kind of strike parries, just as I was talking about the thrusts, is you want to maintain enough control of center that you actually can use your sword immediately afterwards. Meaning, if I strike and I do this, now, by the time I come up here to cut, he's just going to make 2 or 3 different versions of a block right there. All right. If I just come to here, back cut, rotate, overcut, those kind of things, because it's kind of in a position for me to use it. Right, does that make sense? You want to try it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Yeah.
So you brace every time you move the sword, you're going to be...
No, but the more you can get your brain to move feet while you're doing these things, the better off you are. Okay. Right? So if I'm here, right, and I'm doing kendo, right, so it's just straight down, you're not allowed to redirect, right? And I do that, I just avoided it, right? If I'm doing rattan, if I do that, he can redirect. But that's starting to get away from his cut. But I have to do something else with my weapon to maintain that safety, right? Okay. If I'm here and he comes at me with a passing step and I come back, right? I'm still using my feet. I don't have to, right? I can be here. He steps forward. I come in here and step forward. Right? And then now Dave's a pretty strong guy, but now we're trying to figure out what to do in this clinch, right? I generally am going to be like, what am I going to do? I mean, there's a lot of things to do, but am I going to do that thing we were practicing earlier? Am I going to go to half sword and grab it here, right? Am I going to step to kind of control more and try to get that hard rotate back edge in? You know, those kind of things.
Okay.
And that wasn't a lot of feet,
Right.
right? So understanding rebats and strike parries. These are things that are much more advanced and harder to do because, as we described, they're very much involved in proper timing. Okay, right. So real brief description on, well, yeah, right, duh, proper timing. Yeah, I had good timing, I didn't know why. I had really bad timing, I didn't know why. The bad times I got hit, the good times I hit down. Right? But the way you start to have better timing, okay, is, so I'm trying to get into Zen Ike here a little bit, but when my opponent, okay, has, in his mind, he's really decided he's got to swing, right? And like you'll feel like, okay, I'm tired of this dance, Ike. I'm coming at you, right? That happens all the time. That isn't just you, that's all of us, right? Okay? But I've had enough patience and I have enough awareness outside of my physical mind where I'm like, you know, I'm not looking for a foot twitch. Some people do it, and some people can be pretty good at it, right? This is what I teach is not what I do. But what I'm doing is I'm reading the energy of my opponent, and when he's starting to raise up his energy to go, I'm like, ooh, I think he's coming. And we all have felt that when we fight. You go, oh, here comes Jamie. You know, Ike's bored, he's coming, whatever, right? Okay? That's now how we make timing to do things a little easier, because now I understand when a thing is going to happen, right? Or it's about to happen. Okay? All right? So then the spirit read that a thing was happening, and then the physical has to accomplish it, right? There's actually a thing in Kendo, and I do it with these. It's really hard, it's even advanced past this stuff, but it's called Depana Waza. And Depana, when you as a person, when every mysterious person decide we're now have decided to do a thing, right? There is a point when your brain has made that final decision to do a thing where you can't change it in that moment. Okay? So if you're like, I'm gonna swing it, you know, I'm gonna swing at Dave's arm. And just before I initiate that cut, he cuts at me. I'm like in this hesitation, doubt, fear, surprise place of the poisons, and he just kills me, and I go, well, that was perfect timing. And you're like, either, yeah, because I read you, or you're, I guess I'm lucky because I just swung at you, right? Because that can happen, right? So anyway, I digress a little bit as I do, but timing is also, I call it distance and timing, right? Distance and timing, right? The closer you are to a thing, right? So in this case, the timing isn't catching a person, you know, in their phase, if you will, right? It's not that timing. It's the timing of how long, how much time does it take to get your attack to land on them. Okay? If it's field battles, distance timing is, well, if you tell that unit, that cab unit, to charge right away, it not only is going to telegraph they're coming, and they're going to get tired when they get there, because the distance was wrong, you know. So the closer you are, less time is involved in creating a cut or a thrust, because you're closer, distance and timing, right? Okay. So there's another thing for parries. So we've done. So there's a meat parry where if I'm here, right, this is my head, I come up and I meet it, right. But in my mind, I'm meeting it and stopping it and immediately finishing something, right? Okay. So if I'm here, right, meet it, right, do a back edge cut. Those kind of things. That's when it's a meat parry, is you're just meeting your opponent's blade somewhere but it's going to be a short party because you're finishing immediately afterwards, and that's in the cube. That's one thing with two subcomponents, right? There's gliding blocks or gliding parries. We talked very briefly about this with the on flats conversation. But if I'm here, and this generally requires footwork, but it doesn't have to. But if you swing at my head, right? So he's hitting me, right? So I step and I put the flat, and as his power is continuing, I lift, it comes off, and then I kill him. Okay? So the glide is that moment where you catch it, lift it, and let it go by. Right? Glides are really powerful, but of all the things I just described in parries, glides are the hardest ones to do for two reasons. One is because they're hard to get that timing to do. It's hard to have the technical perfection of form to get it to work once you actually have the right timing. Okay, I learned them with Florentine, so now all you got is swords, and people are jump on a Florentiner and start swinging. Yeah, so it's like, man, you go from static blocks to moving static blocks to try to get some glides in there too, so you have a moment to breathe and hit, right? But the nature of the technique is, as I turn, I receive it as I'm lifting, and then dropping my point. So that so you might say, well, if you don't do that right, you're going to get hit in the head, right? And I do this, right? And I do this, right? Yeah, that's absolutely true, because I did it wrong. Right? Go ahead. I'm here, and as I lift, before I go over, I've controlled that point over my head, right? Okay, so gliding blocks or gliding blocks. Okay. They're really effective if you can get your opponent to cut at your head. Any kind of attack that's like blow about chin high is really hard to glide. You can do it, but it's really hard to glide because the level of getting it off of you, right? It's really hard. Yeah. Right? Yeah, so I mean, all this stuff all these parries are really relevant for cut and thrust, for steel rebated, for cut and thrust, HEMA, Baton, etc., etc. Okay, so that was the full advanced parry conversation. Do we want to try some practice with those parries, I think? Yeah, okay. So probably gauntlets for sure, and if you have a helm, pop on a helm, so just in case, that way you can go a little faster and start to try to understand these things a little bit. I have a really good acumen of doing things properly, so I can zoom and fast speed and now give it a hand or whatever. Okay? So that's one of my favorites. So, if you're attacking, you are going to do the attack. You are swinging at his head in this area. What I want you to do is I want you to start with your right foot and your guard is down here. Okay. So pass speed. Well, first get range. I want you just in range. Yeah, no.
A normal person's
yeah.
range.
So we get this point. So for a bat, if his point starts below this side, he's not batting on that side. You don't bring it over here and think you're going to catch that in time. Does that make sense? Yeah. So you're starting here. And proper full is here. I can have you guys draw the guards in there while I'm doing it. That's proper full. Yeah. Okay. So have sweep, don't swing his head. Do this. Yeah. Now. So remember I was talking about keeping your point in a position where you can use it? Mm-hmm. So you went all the way back here. By the time you did that, you did a nicer bat, it came off like this, and then your opponent was there, he's not swinging at you again. Okay? So it has to be here, and then there, or here, or with a step, or whatever. Okay? Yeah, and that's it. Right. And then you're not far away, you can hold business up, and you're grabbing, you're doing it. Back.
Do a full squat.
Totally get that.
Yeah.
Your job is to if confirming proper technique pushes. Because this that's what we're saying. Full speed.
Because you can hit it any point.
Because I guarantee you, if I see it coming. So the back isn't straight up for a 15 Well, you're coming in this way. Because what I want to do is grab literally shake through a shot. That's kind of like that's what I want to do. That's part of it. Which is interesting though.
Go ahead and do it full speed. But then I'm almost there.
Still good. Okay, so if we're offside. Offside, so let's say guard very this. Let's say this one, and I back up, and he goes down there, and he draws up this one this way. Now it's a strike. Strike. Yeah. Makes sense? Angles, so much better. Yeah. Number 2. That would be number 3. So this is the 2? Yeah. It's just
Putting yourself in that position.
You're real close. I want you to focus not on You're bringing it. You're going. See the difference? Yeah.
I'm trying to. Yeah. Okay. As long as you move.
So you're attack.
I don't even say anything. I just saw it. I didn't hear it.
Yeah. See the difference?
It's just another way to do it. Actually, you can intentionally bait on the side. That's it's going to be super.
Not in the heart, but not in the
But you said here, I'm catching it sooner. That's what's going on. Get sooner than here. There's kind of
I'm losing position rather than trying to like video tactic. Push it out of the way. Right, wait. Further than there.
All right, let's.
And you don't need much. You're leaving there. Momentum. Like he said, your best block is not the beat. I realize you I want to step away from that. Why not? Well, you're adding that can start really dark. You know, blocks. There's an ad right there. Oh, that's not what There you go. Okay, listen up. Keep your helmets on. Listen up. Come on, bring it in. Listen up. So, we're working on the best. I don't think we need to practice right there. Circuitors are pretty like easy to figure out. More difficult to do, but you know how to do it is pretty easy, right? Okay. Why you just got to practice a lot. Right? I don't think we need to get involved. But what I do want to additionally recommend and then have you guys practice is so when I go to Ox, okay, was in Germany it's still Ox, right?
Yep.
Or CHS or something.
Yep.
So do you know Ox? Go to Ox. Yeah, okay, so his right foot forward, left hand high. Excuse me, right hand high. Yeah, okay. What about that?
Can't do it in my guns.
Right, okay, so I agree.
Yep.
Okay. So the way Meyer shows Ox is exactly how they did it. That cross hand and really kind of uncomfortable. Okay? So the way I teach Ox, the way I use Ox is exactly what Friedrich was just doing. Is go left foot forward, left hand high, right? Bring it up, and then grab the pommel with the right hand. Yeah, and you should be pointing directly at your bow. Yeah,
Right, okay. That's appropriate ox with armor and stuff. There's other ones in the but that's the one that really works well. Okay? Now, how do you use that to block the parry? Right? So, here's something. While I'm here, it's going to come on my head, right? So, I drop that point. So, a point down block. Right? See my hands over here, point down block. Like we do, right? Same idea. Right? So, here, and here. Okay. Now, the finish is, obviously everybody, so he's going to try to, all that stuff, and we're kind of doing that finish, right? If you step enough and have the right timing and become more to the vertical, right? Go ahead. Okay. See how the step off and the more vertical drop on that point slid it off.
It gets the glider block.
Right. Okay. So that's how you would use that for a hidden cut. You would here, right? If you're literally one of the things. So if I'm here, right, and he thrusts at me, right? It's sort of the same idea. It's a parry that uses the point down to parry that thrust, and then I'm controlling it, right, to do something. Okay. Did you want to start this together? This comes in, comes down, and then over. Yeah. This is more of a single hand sort of thing. For us, I come in here, and then I rotate over. And the shorter weapons are smaller, one-handed, or that small, do that Monet kind of thing. Right? But the one I really like is what I've been showing. Okay? So let's go ahead and practice that, right? So the attacker is going to start from like here and just swing like that. Okay? Go ahead, so go on the other side. So remember, ox, left foot forward, and then out. There you go. See how that right now? I do. Not this side. And that's fine too. Yeah, that's fine too. Yep. Okay, so just practice that. I just got it.
20 to 2. 20 to 2. My normal loud talk is good enough, I think. My normal loud talk should be. I think. Hey, fucking my I'm trying to get each of the guys.
Well, here. I'll sit up and I'll do that. I think there's a particular when you brush. I'm already using it up. Just let me drop. And if we're doing just so I can see this. Yes. You should be doing that. I don't think I'll ever be back.